Today I want to talk to you about anxiety, and I want to talk to you about how to deal with your anxiety, not just on the yoga mat during our yin yoga practice, but this counts for off of the yoga mat too. When it comes to something like anxiety, our go-to response, understandably, is to want to push it away. We try to resist it. And we try to resist it in our bodies by clenching and tensing. And we try to resist it in our minds by navigating away from it. Our mind will come up with all kinds of stories and analysis, trying to figure out where that anxiety came from, what was causing it, how do I get away from it, why is it here? So it will really go into a very busy kind of analysis mode, understandably, and that is our way of trying to get away from it or navigate away from it. What I'm going to tell you to do when it comes to anxiety today is going to sound pretty radical to start with. I'm going to ask you to just allow it to be there. I'm going to ask you to no longer fight it. When it comes to emotion, any of our emotions, when they come up, they are there for a reason. There may be something that we need to learn, but sometimes the emotions just come up because they need to be felt. They need to be heard. They need to be given space. And what I've learned through meditation and through my yin yoga practice is that when you are feeling anxiety, the harder you fight with it, the worse it gets. It's like quicksand. The more you try and get away from it, the bigger it becomes. And what actually happens if you're in your yin yoga posture, if you're just sitting for a moment in everyday life and you just tune in and you just start to observe where that meditation, where that anxiety may be. You feel it in the body, you feel it in the mind, and you just start to observe the very feeling of anxiety. And you just surrender, you just let it be there. And you may even say to your anxiety, you are welcome to be here, and really mean it. And this is what I often do when it comes to anxiety or whatever emotion I may be feeling, even if it's something like anger or frustration, and just say, you're allowed to be here. You are welcome too. And when that feeling, whatever it may be, is allowed to be there, one of two things will happen. Either when you just allow it to be there, you'll learn something from it. So if, say, we're talking about anger now, and we just allow the anger to be there. We don't try and fight it, we don't try and get away from it, we just let it be there. And you may notice why it's there. You may learn, something may come up for you. You may get some kind of insight as to why that anger is there. And they may give you steps then to be able to move on from that anger, that anxiety, whatever it may be. The other thing that happens is that if you totally allow that to be there, sometimes it's like, think of your emotions as like a little child that just sometimes needs to have a bit of a cry, stamp its feet, and it just needs to be able to do that. And it just needs to be able to be allowed to do that. And it's the same when it comes to your emotions. If you're feeling anxious or angry, whatever it may be, and you just let it be there, and you say to it, you are totally welcome to be here for as long as you need to be here. Listen to it, feel it, give it space, give it room to breathe. Welcome it in. And I promise you, the more you do that, less you fight and resist, the more you allow, the more you give room and space for these emotions, the quicker they will move on. What you will find is that when anxiety comes in and you try to fight with that anxiety, you add more anxiety to the anxiety and more anxiety to the anxiety, and it builds and builds and builds. There is a saying, what you resist persists. But when you allow emotions to come in and you just let them be there, you don't try and fight them, they will just wave out again when they're ready. The other thing that you learn in that is that there is no harm in emotions. And actually things that you were fighting, things that you were trying to get away from, they're not so bad when you just allow them to be there without judging them with your mind, without trying to get away from them with your mind. You totally learn that they're not actually as scary as you thought they were. And a teacher that I listened to told me once that it's like sometimes these emotions, it's like you've been running away from this scary tornado, and you've been running, and then when you've had enough one day, you just stop and you turn around and you just face the tornado. You allow it to come towards you, you allow it to wash over you, and you allow it to just go. And that's what it feels like, that's what happens. You just turn and face. And then you realise, oh, actually that thing that I was running from wasn't so bad after all. And all of this requires a little bit of trust on our part. When we're saying to the emotion, let's say anxiety, you are totally welcome to be here, you have your place, you have your space. There has to be a trust there that this will move on when it's ready. So I just want to remind you that there is no emotion or emotional state that you ever felt that stayed. They always move on. This is just a case of how long are they going to be around. And I promise you that the more you fight, the more you resist, the longer they will stay around. The more you learn to relax and allow, the quicker they move on. 2 little notes there though. First of all, if you are allowing your emotion to be there just because you want it to go away quicker, it's like the emotion will sense that, like a child would sense that. If you're allowing the child to just be in whatever mood it's in and you were saying, it's okay, with an energy of, but hurry up, it doesn't quite have the same effect, if that makes sense. So you have to really be genuine with your emotions when you're allowing them to be there. And then the second little note there is a nice simple thing, which is just use your body. So if you're allowing something to be there, allowing an anxiety, just remember that you have some control. You can breathe a little deeper. You can breathe into your tummy rather than letting your breath stay up in your chest. You can soften your shoulders. So as you're surrendering to the emotion, surrender physically. Allow your body to relax into it. Give over to it. And that will help things along. So overall guys, whether you're on your yoga mat or whether you're off of your yoga mat, my message today is to play around with allowing your emotions to be there. I promise you there is nothing that you can feel that is ever going to damage you or do you any harm. When you're feeling the emotion in your body, observe it. What does it feel like? Don't judge it. Don't build any stories about it. Just let it be there. And the more you can learn to allow, the more you will learn to just ride the waves of your emotions as they come in and they come out. Because we have to remember that our emotional state is constantly changing. Emotions are constantly coming and going, and we do not have control within that. The best that we can do actually is to learn to surrender.